Welcome to Rao's Study Circle. The purpose of this video is to discuss all the questions asked by UPSC today in the preliminary examination with all their solutions and the explanations. You should first know that compared to earlier years, this year UPSC has asked far more easy and moderate questions in history section, making it very scoreable a section. At the same time, UPSC has again picked some of the favorite areas like the philosophical system in India, like Upanishads, like the constitutional development, like the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and other such areas. Now, in this video, we are going to discuss all the questions in history section with the solutions and explanations. Let's start with that. One of the most important parts from where UPSC has often been asking question is constitutional development. And again, this year, UPSC has asked a question from that area from the Government of India Act 1935. In this question, we have to figure out the correct statements. The first statement says that the Government of India Act provided for establishment of an All India Federation based on the union of British Indian provinces and princely states. The first statement is correct. The most striking feature of the Government of India Act 1935 was that it provided for a federation of both the provinces and the princely states. And it is more interesting to know that the federation could never come up because the princely states never agreed to become part of this. The second statement says that defense and foreign affairs were kept under the control of the federal legislature. The second statement is incorrect, as the legislature was kept very weak, and in fact, it had no control over the important subjects like defense and diplomacy. Now, this was because of such demerits that the Government of India Act 1935 was opposed by Congress. And do you know that Jawaharlal Nehru was so angry that he called the reform as a car with all the brakes and no engine? So, the first statement is correct and the second statement goes wrong, and here the answer would be A, one only. Now, in this very interesting question asked by UPSC in preliminary examination this year, we have to figure out the correct statements regarding Lord Cornwallis and the revenue settlement that was brought by him. The first statement says that under the Rayatwari settlement of revenue collection, the peasants were exempted from revenue payment in case of bad harvest or natural calamity. First statement goes wrong because the time of Cornwallis was 1786 to 93, and he never brought Rayatwari settlement. He brought the permanent settlement that was also called Zamindari settlement. The Zamindari settlement was brought in 1793 and it was mainly applicable in eastern part of British India like Bihar, Bengal and Odisha and also parts of Benares. So first statement goes wrong because Rayatwari settlement that was brought in 1820 much later was not in times of Cornwallis. Second reason why the first statement would go wrong because the Rayatwari settlement was mainly applicable in southern parts of British India like Madras and Bombay presidencies. And it was a direct revenue settlement with the Rayats. But the British kept very high revenue demand and very fixed deadlines for paying of the revenue. So if the farmers failed to pay the revenue in time, they were quickly evicted from their land. So they were not exempted in case of bad harvest. The second statement says that under the permanent settlement in Bengal, the Zamindar failed. If the Zamindar failed to pay his revenues to the state on or before the fixed date, he would be removed from Zamindari. The second statement goes right because this law that compelled the Zamindars to pay revenue exactly in time and that was put by the British, it was called Sunset Law. Now, under this sunset law, the zamindars were compelled to pay the revenue in Bengal in a very fixed deadline. And if they would fail to meet that fixed deadline or the sunset law or the sunset of the fixed day, they would be evicted from the zamindari and the zamindari would be sold to another zamindar. So the second statement goes correct. And here the answer would be B2 only. In this very interesting question asked by UPSC in preliminary exam this year, we have to figure out the correct statements. Now, the first statement says that there are no parables in Upanishads. So, what do you mean by parables first? The stories which would give you moral teachings, ideas, and the philosophies. Now, the first statement goes wrong because Upanishads had many parables, the small stories that would give you so many philosophical ideas and the moral teachings. A very good example is Kathopanishad. Now, in Kathopanishad, for example, we get very interesting story of Yam. Who is Yam? The god of death, and Nachiketa. The conversation between Yam and Nachiketa would give very good idea about birth, rebirth, afterlife, what would happen, and all the things. Certainly, then the first statement goes wrong. There are many parables in Upanishads. Then the second statement says that Upanishads were composed earlier than the Puranas. The second statement is correct. Upanishads were composed by the end of later Vedic age. And as they were compiled by the end of the Vedic age, that is why they are also called Vedanta. What were Upanishads? Eventually, when there were so many Vedic rituals that were creating difficulty for the people, a reaction came in the form of philosophical path for getting salvation, and that came in the form of Upanishads, which were also called Vedanta philosophy. And it was finally compiled by the end of later Vedic age. On the other hand, if we talk about the Puranas, like Vayu Puran, Matsya Puran, Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, Bhagavad Puran, all of them they were compiled finally by the time of Gupta age. So it is absolutely correct to say that Upanishads were composed earlier than the Puranas. So the second statement goes correct. So answer here would be B, 2 only. Like every year, Indian culture has remained one of the most favorite parts from where UPSC has been asking question. Now, this question from UPSC Prelims 2024 says that which of the following was the latest inclusion in the intangible cultural heritage list of UNESCO? Now, when you see the options, you can figure out that all the four they have been included into the intangible cultural heritage list. Now, Chow dance is very prominent from the areas like Bengal, Odisha, and Jharkhand. And the dance is called Chow because the dancers they use a big mask, such a big mask that it would create almost a shadow or chaya. That is why the dance form is called Chow dance. Then Durga Puja from Kolkata is world famous and it is also part of the UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. Then Garba dance, prominent in western part of India, mainly in Gujarat, like areas, it's world famous, which is also part of UNESCO cultural heritage. And the Kumbh Mela, which is convened in 4 years in the places like Prayag, Haridwar, Nasik, and Ujjain, is the sacred festival of the Hindus and is also part of the UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. But the latest addition from Indian side in intangible cultural heritage is Garba. So answer here would be C, Garba dance.
The history section of UPSC examination prelims 2024 this year starts from the question 3, and the question is actually on the basis of the political organizations which were created in pre-independence or post-independence history. The question is that these are the four following organizations and these are the basic leaders, not the founders but the basic leaders. Now, the question says consider the following pairs and identify how many of them are actually correct. The first one is Bharatiya Jansangh, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. This is actually correct. Also, Deen Dayal Upadhyay was associated with this political party and it was founded after India's independence. The second one is Socialist Party C. Rajgopalacharya. This statement is incorrect because C. Rajgopalacharya was one of the founder of the fourth option, that is Swatantra Party, which also makes or which also brings us to the fourth option, Swatantra Party and Acharya Narendra Dev is also incorrect because Acharya Narendra Dev was associated with the Congress Socialist Party founded before India's independence. Hence, the fourth one is also incorrect. Coming to the third one, which is actually correct, the Congress for Democracy was founded by Jagjeevan Ram in 1977, that is after India's independence. Now, given this understanding, The answer to the question number 3 for set D is going to be only 2. Moving to the next question. The next question from the history section was question 11. The question says, who was the provisional president? Now please understand, provisional here means temporary. That is, before identifying a permanent president to the Constituent Assembly, who was Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was among the following, was a provisional or a temporary president. The answer to this question is going to be Dr. Sajidanand Sinha, who remained as being the most respected person at that time in the Congress, who remained as a provisional president for this party for almost like 2 days only. The answer to this question is going to be option D. Moving to the next question. Moving to the next question, it is question 34 from the set D. The question says, with reference to the ancient India, Gautam Buddha was generally known by which of the following epithets? Basically titles or the names. The 3 options are Nyayaput, Shakyamuni and Tathagat. Out of these 3, only 2 are correct, and which are option 2 and 3. The Nyayaput is another title or the name used for Mahavira under Jainism. Tathagat is the title given to Buddha, and Shakyamuni is the sage of Shakya clan, because Gautam Buddha belonged to the Shakya clan. So the answer to this question is going to be option B. Moving to the next question. Here we have question 35, which is match the following. The question talks about that consider the following different tables. So there are 3 tables. In the first table, you have archaeological sites. In the second table, you have the specific state where these archaeological sites are located. And the last one is the specific description for which these sites are known. Now let us see them one by one. The first one is Chandraketu Gad, Odisha, trading port town. Chandraketu Gad is correct. Odisha is incorrect. Trading port is correct. Hence, overall it is incorrect. The answer to this is going to be West Bengal. So the first option is incorrect. When you come to the first option, hence these 2 are incorrect. Now we are ended up with 2 options only. The second one is Inamgaon, Maharashtra, Chalcolithic site or Chalcolithic site. This statement is absolutely correct. When you know these 2, you can easily come to the conclusion that answer to this question is option B. You need not to go through the other 3 or 4. So basic elimination, and surprisingly, Chandraketu Gad, Inamgaon are mentioned in most of the NCERT maps as well. Moving to the next question. Here is the question number 36 from set D. The question asks, who of the following rulers of medieval India gave the permission to the Portuguese to build a fort at Bhatkal? Now Bhatkal is a site which is located on the coastal Karnataka. Now even if you don't know this, although it is mentioned in the NCERT map, Karnataka was a territory ruled by Vijayanagar Empire. And Portuguese, the initial phase of Portuguese were contemporary to one of the ruler. If you know these basic details, you can easily say the answer is Krishnadev Rai. But going by the description, Krishnadev Rai actually signed a kind of a treaty with the Portuguese where he and Albrecht, one of the governor of the Portuguese Empire, signed a treaty, and Krishnadev Rai allowed him to build a fort in Bhatkal. So based on that, the answer to the question 34. So based on that, the answer to the question 36 is going to be option A. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Rouse Eyes Study Circle. And here I am going to discuss with you UPSC Preliminary Exam Paper Set D, year 2024. Okay. So the first question that I am going to discuss with you is, which one of the following is a work attributed to playwright Bhas? Okay. So it's asking about a personality, Bhas. And the question has already mentioned that he is a playwright. It means the writer of the plays, the writer of the dramas. And the question is asking that which out of these 4 Which one of the following is a work of Bhas? Now, the first option is Kavya Alankar. Okay, so we can eliminate this very easily. How? So here the word that has been used is Kavya, and Kavya simply means what? Poetic forms of literature. So we can eliminate this. This will not be the right option. Now the second option B here is Natya Shastra. And we all know this is the name of a very popular work of literature, Natya Shastra, that was written by Bharat Muni, right? And in this Natya Shastra, we find the earliest evidences of the origin of classical form of music, classical form of dance, classical form of theater, classical form of puppetry. So we can trace the origin of all ancient Indian classical art forms from this particular work that is known as Natya Shastra. So obviously, this will also not be the right answer. Okay, now we have two options left. Now the fourth one, that is Mahabhasya, has been asked multiple times in UPSC, and we all know that Mahabhasya is a work of Patanjali. This have been various time asked in UPSC paper, so obviously this will also not be the right answer. So what will be the right answer of this question? So the answer is C. C is what? Madhyam Vyayog. Now the question comes that what is Vyayog? So when we talk about Vyayog, so these are particular forms of dramas, right? That are written in Sanskrit language. Particular forms of drama that is written in Sanskrit language that is known as Vyayog, and this the work is Madhyama Vyayog. So this is written by Bhas. Okay. Now let's come to the second question. The second question is Sanghabhuti, an Indian Buddhist monk who traveled to China at the end of 4th century AD, was the author of commentary on. Now again, four works are given. The first is Pragya Paramita Sutra, the second is Visuddhimag, the third is Sarvastivad Vinay, and the fourth is Lalita Vistar. Now, out of these four options, you will find that Lalit Vistara is one of the most popular set of question that have been previously been asked also. You will find that Vishuddhi Mag. Okay, this is a composition of Buddha Ghosh. This is also one of the popular set of information. Now, when you look at this part, Pragya Paramita Sutra, this has already been asked in UPSC. This literature, Pragya Paramita Sutra, UPSC has also asked separately a question previously that what are paramitas, right? So this Pragya Paramita Sutra, again, it's a Buddhist text. Okay, so this will not be the answer here. Okay, Vishuddhimag is a composition of Buddha Ghosh, and Lalit Vistara. Okay, the writer is not the one person or individual person. This is considered as a work of many scholars, and this again is a Buddhist text which contains the information from the birth of Buddha till the day when he delivered the first sermon in Deer Park, Sarnath. So this is compiled in the form of various chapters, and the life events of the Buddhas have been given here. Okay, so the answer for this question will be Sarvastivad Vinay, right? Sarvastivad Vinay will be the right answer of this question, right? So what is this Sarvastivad Vinay? Okay, so Vinay text, again, in Buddhism, okay, Vinay text is related with various traditions of Buddhism. It's not confined with a particular set or tradition of Buddhism. There are various forms of Vinay text or Vinay literature. One form is Sarvastivadin Vinay. Okay, there is Sammitya Vinay, there is Theravada Vinay, there is Dharma Gupta Vinay. So there are different forms of this Sarvastivada Vinay. So this Sanghabhuti traveled to China, and we can consider the date, that is 381 to 386 AD is the time period when he traveled to China. Okay, and he is known as the author of commentary on Sarvastivad Vinay, and later various other translations of this Sarvastivad Vinay will also appear. Now we are coming to the So the answer will be Sarvastivad Vinay. Now we are coming to the next question. The next question is, consider the following properties included in World Heritage List released by UNESCO. So this is for first part of the question. So we have to be alert while reading this question. Now there is a second part of this question also. Look here. How many of the above properties were included in the year 2023? So you will have to read the question very carefully. So it's asking the properties that were included in this list in 2023. It's inclusion in 2023. So this is totally a current affairs based question, right? So we can see here that two of these properties, Shanti Niketan in the year 2023 and Sacred Ensembles of the Hoysals, they were included in 2023. Remaining two are the inclusions in other year. For example, Rani Ki Bav, that is popularly known as Queen's Step Well, its inclusion is in the year 2014. Mahabodhi Temple Complex, we all know the very famous temple complex, okay, at Bodh Gaya. So its inclusion was in the year 2002. So obviously 4 will not be the right answer and 2 will not be the right answer. So the right answer will be 1 and 3. It means only 2. It means B will be the right answer of this question. Thanks to all of you.